Powered by Riverside FM.
Powered by Riverside.
Welcome to the UP. I'm your host, Lionel Jones. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Keep helping this thing grow. Over 3,000 subscribers in less than a month. We're growing. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate all of the emails. You know, our subject on Caitlin Clark, if you go back to that pod that we did a few weeks ago, there's a lot of discussion going on that pod. So I really appreciate the passion in which you guys are talking about Caitlin Clark and how great she could be. So there's a lot of passion going on with that. I appreciate the interaction. I appreciate the engagement, especially when it comes to that pod. That was a pod that I really, really liked talking about. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Caitlin Clark, and I think she's going to be fantastic. So it's great to see a lot of other fans out there debating on her success and if she's going to have the success that everybody expects her to have. Big game tonight, Minnesota Timberwolves, game 3 versus the Dallas Mavericks. The Minnesota Timberwolves allowed Dallas to come in and take 2 games at home. You fight all year from a home court advantage, and then you allow teams to come in here and take it twice in the same playoffs. Really, really big problem. I mean, you put yourself in a hole. They overcame that against the Denver Nuggets. We'll see if they can do the same against the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think you can keep living dangerously like that, but oh well. It's kind of where we are right now, and I think it starts with the Minnesota Timberwolves winning game 3 tonight. They don't win game 3 tonight. They're going to be in the same situation the Indiana Pacers is, down 3-0. And the statistics when it comes to teams being down 3-0. I mean, it just doesn't happen, for teams to come back. So I don't know if the Minnesota Timberwolves know this or not. You just never know with this team in terms of their sense of desperation and their sense of urgency, but tonight is a must win. So you would think you would see the best version of the Minnesota Timberwolves, but you never know, man. You just never know. This is a young team. They go to the beat of their own drum. What's a sense of urgency for one person may not be a sense of urgency for another person. So it's just like the whole Forrest Gump thing. The Timberwolves are like a box of chocolates. Like you just never know what you're going to get. And that's who the Timberwolves are right now. You just never know what you're going to get. But I got a couple different things that may help the Timberwolves. I'm going to put my coaching hat on. I had an opportunity to watch some of the game stuff. And, if I were to take over the team tomorrow, and I'm not saying that I'm an NBA caliber coach, but, coaching basketball is coaching basketball. You start putting titles on these things like, some of the best coaches are in the NBA. Oh, that's a load of crock. People can coach this game. Sometimes, you put yourselves in a situation to get hired at these jobs and to be seen a little bit more. One of the criteria, for coaching in the NBA is that you have to coach in the NBA for the most part. Like that cuts out a lot of really, really, really good coaches out there. Because if you're looking for a player that used to play, if that's part of your criteria, then your pool of great coaches out there are going to shrink. But I have a couple of different ideas about what the Minnesota Timberwolves can do. I mentioned one, and I'm just going to stay steadfast with this because I think it's accurate of what needs to happen. Like, I don't think you can put Anthony Edwards on Kyrie Irving anymore. It should be Anthony Edwards and Luka, and you should go Jaden McDaniels on Kyrie. You need a little bit more aggressive. You need a little bit more length. You need a little bit more lateral quickness. And you need someone that has a little bit of dog in him to even have a chance to slow him down. Luka on the other hand, is a little hobbled. So I think, Anthony Edwards would be able to not handle him, but at least they would have somebody that can put a cap on him a little bit. You just can't give up on Luka off those ball screens. Like, you got to be aggressive, get downhill with him defensively so he's not snaking into those gaps. So that's one thing I would do right there. I would keep those matchups. That's number one. Number two, I'll play a little bit more zone. When you have people getting into the paint, getting in those lanes, they're used to running their pick and roll offense. Their 5 offense is killing the Timberwolves right now. What I mean by 5, that's the man-to-man offense. Their 5 offense is killing the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. So changing it up to a zone may give them a different look, and you have guys covering areas. They don't have to chase as much. They're in better position to rebound. So if I'm Chris Finch, I'm playing a good majority of this game zone. Got to do something different. You've obviously proven that you can't guard them one-on-one in 2 games. Your drop coverage has not been effective. I understand the ideology of that, but that hasn't been effective. So why not go zone? Close down some of those areas, close the lane. You're not going to be giving up the alley-oops. Supposedly, you're not supposed to give up alley-oops like that in the zone. You guys are in position to be better rebounders as well. And I think in a 2-3 zone or something like that, 1-2-2, it starts your break. It starts your transition once you get those defensive rebounds. It's an idea. Third thing I would do, Rudy Gobert. You can't bench Rudy Gobert. I've seen, the comments and people saying it's time for Chris Finch to bench Rudy Gobert. You can't not start Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. That's a PR nightmare. You just get handed the Defensive Player of the Year a couple weeks ago, and now you're going to bench him? Like, in what world does that happen? They're going to go down with the ship with Rudy Gobert, at least starting for the Minnesota Timberwolves. There won't be a situation where Rudy Gobert won't start. You can get over that. That's not happening. I can tell you right now. But what they should do, my recommendation is you got to feel that situation out. Because right now, Rudy Gobert is getting double the minutes that Naz Reid is getting in the playoffs. Pretty much double the minutes. And Naz Reid just looks a little bit different than Rudy Gobert. So you got a lot of people out there, and well, they should saying, well, what if you gave Naz Rudy's minutes? And you could do that. But I think it's a fill-out situation. Like, I don't think you go into a game with that game plan. I think you assess who's there first and second quarters of the game. And if Rudy is being Rudy, fumbling the ball out of bounds, can't finish at the basket, not defending, then you give Naz Reid all the minutes you can give him in the second half. And that's the way you should approach every game. Treat Rudy Gobert like you treated Big Cat last game. Big Cat obviously wasn't pleasing the coaches. What did they do? They sat his ass on the bench. They sat his ass on the bench. You do the same thing with Rudy Gobert. Assess where Rudy is. And if he's not giving you what he should be giving you, then sit him down and put in Naz Reid. Because I'm telling you right now, the one person on the team you don't have to worry about bringing it is Naz Reid. You can book this for game 3. Naz Reid will not have a bad game. Naz Reid will come with energy. Naz Reid will be an aggressor. Naz Reid is going to make a lot of intangible plays during game 3. You can book that as sure as the sun's going to come up for the next 3 days. You can book that. Naz Reid's going to show up. Everything else is crapshoot with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't know about Ant. Maybe Ant's going to show up today. You would think so. I mean, it's desperation. You would think he would show up today. Big Cat. I mean, he's been in the league long enough to know he can't get down 3-0. You would think there would be a little bit of desperation. Jaden McDaniels, you would think, he's probably got to have his best defensive game on Kyrie or Luka, whoever he's on. So he's got to be impactful. You would think there would be a sense of desperation. I just don't know. Rudy Gobert, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not going to put the pressure on these young Timberwolves. Maybe the expectations are just too big for them. Lights are too big. Moments too big. So as a fan, I'm just going to take a different approach, and I'm just going to watch the game, just going to enjoy the game. They're in the Western Conference Finals. We should be happy with that. Because inevitably, if they fail and people get angry at them, that's what they're going to bring up. That's what they're going to say. Well, we accomplished a lot. We got to the Western Conference Finals, and they did. It's kind of where they are. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to root for them like a Timberwolves fan, and whatever they give us, because you can't really hang your hat on anything. Last suggestion for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, I wouldn't have Walker being Conley's backup point guard. I don't know why they're playing Walker at the point, backing up Mike Conley. Maybe it's for defensive purposes. I don't know. But the thing that's really hurting the Timberwolves right now is they just don't have enough guys that can put the ball in the basket. And I've been there. I've been there as a coach. You got a defensive team, and at some point, at some point, you've got to address the scoring. Like, I think in the offseason, no matter how this thing turns out, Timberwolves got to find another guy to go with Ant that can score. I mean, they got all these defensive players. Big Cat's not reliable. Big Cat's a good player. He's just not reliable. And if he was sitting here across from me, I would tell him, there are games, man, we can count on you to go for, 30, but then you'll also go for 6 the next game. You've shown you can be stopped. So you can't really rely on him. I just think, in the free agent market, Timberwolves they gotta do something. Make a trade, something. They gotta get another Robin for Ant. Another alpha for Ant. We need someone else that can score. Those are the suggestions for the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll see how the situation turns out tonight. Must-win game, game 3. The whole state of Minnesota is pulling for the Wolves. I'm pulling for the Wolves. Hopefully they can go in. It's going to be a hostile environment tonight. Mark Cuban and that crew up there in Dallas, that's not an easy place to win. But the Minnesota Timberwolves can do it. They've shown it against the Denver Nuggets that they can put some games together when they need to put some games together. You just can't rely on it. Dallas is not that much better than they are. In my opinion, they're not better than them at all. But the Dallas Mavericks, they can consistently, they've got veterans that can consistently show up. And the Minnesota Timberwolves are just lacking in that area. They may put together a great game tonight. You just don't know. The Minnesota Timberwolves could honestly go into Dallas and beat them by 30. You just can't hang your hat on it. You just don't know. So hopefully Minnesota Timberwolves pull it out tonight. Unconventional playbook. May do a response tonight, depending on how late it is. At the latest, tomorrow we'll respond to Game 3, and I'll give you my thoughts for Game 3. This has been Unconventional Playbook. See ya when I see ya.
Powered by Riverside.